The only thing necessary was a shard of evidence. I just needed some tiny hint or clue to reveal what was happening. Needed something turned in my imaginary favor to tilt and better explain the magical amalgam so coiled in my head as I sat gawking and marveling during my first excursion to a rookery of great blue herons. I wanted some proof that the birds and their habitat were real. I am most commonly asked if people believe what I write is true or not true. They're always like, is that fiction or nonfiction? And I constantly battle with that question because in my world, I have a saying like, what's truer than the truth is story. And so I always believe the perfect mix for a book would be 51% fiction, 49% nonfiction. I don't necessarily require a quiet place. I actually just need like a first sentence, and then I don't mind radios on, I don't mind this sort of confusion because when I'm going, I'm locked in. And what the thing I always need is that first sentence where I just have an idea and I think, okay, this is one I want to explore. And so I kind of explode through 100 pages and then I get to where I can't do it anymore and then I stop. I'm sort of always recharging to a certain extent because I'm interested in so many different things that sometimes the writing sometimes I get too overcharged, I suppose, where I have so many ideas that I want to get out that it's almost overwhelming because I want to write about herons. I have books that I've wanted to write my whole life. I have this thing, I either want to write the Wild Testament or I want to write the even newer Testament. And I keep thinking to myself, I'm going to get those down. And I kind of have them in blocks of, there's like 3 80-page things that I have together, and I'm sort of dreading that day when I merge them all together. But energizing for me is just living my life, I suppose, and I'm just not a straightforward person that has the same lifestyle every day. I always take out the word that, and I always try and take out the word it, no matter what. If they drive me crazy, as an author, I just don't like words that repeat things also. It's like if I find the same word on a page more than 2 times, I'll always cut it. And I don't think, even though an author's business is writing, I don't think of the words so much. I think of the sound of the words, and I think of the pattern of the words. And so I'm very conscious of how fast the sentences are rolling. Like if there's a fast scene, I try and make that scene go quickly. If there's a slow scene, I try and make the words become a little bit longer, or there's more syllables. And that's not something I do consciously at the beginning, but I think of them as musical notes to a certain extent, because I write the way it sounds to me. The format of this book is entirely intended to take someone on an unlikely journey and also to replicate how it felt to me as I was exploring the herons. And so all I knew at first is that there was this trail to this rookery of herons, and I was following it to get to that nest, and that was really straightforward. But it was all the thoughts after that started rolling around. It's kind of revolving around my head. And so in some ways the book is meant to replicate the way a story is told, where you're kind of off in these different tangents, but in the end it's always coming back to the same center or the same trail that I'm going on. So I was always exploring not the birds themselves, but the influence they had on me. And so I knew that there was an old mountain range out on the Flint Hills and the shortgrass prairie of Kansas, and I knew there was a place called the Nehemiah Mountains, and so I knew that was an old reference that I wanted to make at the beginning to establish this character who has been studying this place. And then there's not a whole lot of books on herons. There's only really 2 that just focus on herons, and they're just simply the bird migrates, the bird is this tall, this is its habitat, this is what it likes to eat. And one of the best compliments I had for this book was one of the authors at Orion magazine said, "This is what I thought the future of nature writing would provide us with, is myth and conjecture and science all merging together to better teach us how we can understand the natural world." Because the natural world is the ultimate creative experience. Every day there's a new cloud formation every day, and there's a saying, nature never lies. And so on the other hand, everything I saw was true, and it's all up to me to interpret it. And I guess that's the structure of the book, is just how confusing it was to make sense of it, and how I was looking deeper into things to try and figure it out. I would say for me, spirituality is the entire point of writing. I mean, I feel like I'm always looking for another way or a deeper way of understanding the world that I live in. And if I have to do that through meditation, if I have to do that through looking at things at all the different seasons, all the different times of day, I mean, I feel like I have to be fully immersed in a spot beyond what it looks like in order to understand it best. So in here I have some dreams that I had of me joining herons down by the, I think I have them in the morning, I see them down foraging and standing in water, and I go down there and I join them. And to me, the question is always, what's between me and the reality that they're experiencing at the same time? And so I guess I just see writing as an act of sharing what you have to say with other people, and that to me makes you a writer, not this sort of closet idea that you might someday share it with someone. Because there's a big difference when you think about, I journal much differently than I write something that I think other people are going to read. I don't know exactly what that is, but I might just focus on my inadequacies more if I'm journaling to myself, and that will lead me to what I want to say to other people. But that's not writing for someone else, that's me thinking out loud.